26 characters. That's a lot to choose from. And if you ask most people, they will just give you the same basic advice of play whoever you enjoy the most. Let's not do that. Instead, I'm going to as quickly as possible go through every character and talk about the benefits and negatives of maining each and every character. I'll also be showing some professional footage and some intermediate footage, so that you can actually get some idea of what lies ahead of you when you decide who to main. Let's start with Fox. So this little hellspawn right here is the most popular character at a professional level, and for good reason. When mastered, almost everyone agrees that Fox is the strongest character, even though he can be a bit inconsistent even for the very best. Right here we see one of the biggest strengths of Fox. You have access to pretty much all the tech in the game. Just in this short clip of average professional Fox gameplay, we see wave dashing, dash dancing, wave shining, short hop, fast fall, L cancel, shield drop. And while a lot of Fox's tech is universal, he together with Falco is by far the character where it's applied the most. This dumb pink ball right here just shows the wrong recover option. How do you punish it? Jab, short hop up air, raw up smash, or turn around wave dash up tilt. If you chose raw up smash, you're correct. Actually, short up air works as well, I guess. And I guess at this percent the up tilt shit works as well. Or you can jab puff and then up smash. What I'm trying to say is that in a lot of scenarios, Fox has a lot of different options that all work decently. Sure, at the top level, deciding on the correct one becomes difficult and important, but for everyone else it just means that choosing the wrong option doesn't actually matter too much most of the time. And finally, almost everyone plays Fox. Now, before I get left in the comments, what I mean is that if you don't main Fox, there's a pretty good chance you at least have a Fox secondary. And if you for whatever reason decide to stop maining Fox in the future, it will never really hurt to have a decent Fox in your pocket. Well, what are the negatives to this beast then? First of all, there is actually a pretty big hurdle to conquer before you can play him at an intermediate level. Or actually, there are like 10 hurdles. You remember all that tech I talked about earlier? Yeah, a couple of them are really a must, even just to reach the level of a person who has just picked up, let's say, Puff. That means that even if you've been playing for a bit, you might suffer some losses against people who are less experienced and arguably less skilled than you. That's part of the Fox package, at least in the beginning. Another part of the package is that Fox falls really fast, which means a lot more than you think probably. Not only are there a couple of new kill confirms that appear, but almost every single combo and chain grab in the game is a lot easier, which means that a small mistake against a good opponent can hurt a lot. If you want to do some sick combos right here, right now, then Marth is the guy for you. Against an opponent who doesn't know the DI for every hit, you will have a lot of opportunities to combo hits into each other, even without advanced tech like pivots or wave dashes. Have you ever had that pest of a creature way off stage and then this happens? Well, Marth has the solution for you. Sure, using jab or down tilt isn't going to work every time, but at least you will be alive. Of course, perfecting the edge guard is incredibly complex, but so is it for pretty much every other character. And let's say this little gremlin creature weasels his way back. You have amazing tools to defend yourself. You really can't go wrong with good movement and a big sword. Alright, you just hit them a couple of times and you feel fine. But what if you want to hit them a bit more? What if you want to become sane? How do you actually extend your combos longer than fair F-smash? Let's just say it's complicated. While you're over there studying how to get 11 more %, watch out for... or maybe a little... What I'm trying to say is that there are a lot of gimmicks against you, but if you're able to play around this, most people against you will crumble. Are you watching a warm-up game? Did someone lower the timer? No, it's because there is a Puff on screen. If you don't mind being shameless for a tiny bit, Puff is one of the only characters in the game that is legally able to take a timeout mid-game by just stalling in the air. Maybe you're getting stressed about your opponent moving around. Well, capitalize on their anxiety by just running away. Maybe you're playing against a low tier or your friend for now. Face away from the enemy, jump and drag the C-stick towards them. That's it, that's the game plan. With a tiny bit of movement and a bit of variational timing, this would work against a lot of people. Add in some wave dashing and shield dropping, and suddenly you're H-box. Okay, maybe that's a bit too far, but if you're new to the game and want an immediate advantage against your peers, then Puff is for you. In the same vein, another advantage of playing Puff is that there is very little tech needed. What about CPU 0 or solo battle? Okay, look, there are a lot of sick techy things you can do with Puff, but the tech that is absolutely necessary really is minimal. With a little bit of wave dashing and shield dropping, you're already pretty good. But this is not to say that Puff is easy to get really good at. Since there is such relatively small impact from tech, the difference maker is game plan and selecting the correct options, which is pretty impossible to get better at by just solo practicing in Uncle Punch. And as a consequence of that, improving can be incredibly nebulous and abstract. You will get into the more advanced positioning part of Melee a lot earlier than with other characters. And while there might be a couple of people out there in the world who enjoy learning about where you should be standing in every situation, I do think it's a negative thing that Puff has so many unclear situations. Finally, playing optimally can be incredibly boring as well. While having the option to play defensively is a good thing, some matchups really require a boring playstyle. If you're ahead in stocks against, let's say, Peach or Ice Climbers, you should play in a really boring defensive way if you want to be optimal. If you're against someone who likes being on the ground, stay on the top plat or in the air. If your opponent wants to play a fair matchup in the center, you resist the temptation and you camp. Do you necessarily need to play this passively? Maybe not, but it can be hard to choose between being disliked or having to play on a hard difficulty than someone who camps. Look at this hitbox. If you don't land it, you will get punished hard. No other character in the game has such a punishable move if it misses. Well, of course, you're never gonna miss it, so who cares? Wait, no. That's right, sometimes even if you hit your combo, you might only trade stocks. Have you ever played unranked? Then you've for sure ran into one of Fizz's many Falco bots. Well, guess what? You can do this as well. With Falco, pressing this one red button lets you control neutral with ease. Okay, it's not that simple in reality, but it's no secret that Falco has an incredibly strong grip of neutral. He also has the arguably best vertical movement in the game. Sure, like Puff can get higher, but let's compare the speeds. Unlike the rest of the cast, even at the top level, you can pretty much use the entirety of the stage. Also, just like Fox, you're able to shmove. And by shmove, I mean that you have access to a shit ton of tech, like wave dashing and pillar comboing. I mean, have you seen this? How can you look at this and not think? That's at least a little bit satisfying. Like, actually, how isn't this character clearly the best? Well, I'm sorry that you had to learn this so early, but a lot of things about Falco are lie. Most of his combos are quote-unquote false combos. What that means is that if the opponent plays correctly, they can escape consistently. Basically, very little things actually truly combo into each other, so you have to rely a lot on mix-ups and creative play. Speaking of being creative, almost any other character in the game would love to swap places with Falco right here. But he's just kinda meh after a grab. Sure, they are not like Kirby levels of ban, but they just don't combo into anything unless you read the opponent perfectly or do some very tight timing and port dependent combos. Another quirk of Falco is that it falls like a rock. You mess up your tech, you die. You choose the wrong recovery, you die. You combo the opponent, you die.
And down tilt to grab.
Uh-oh,
But
wait a minute.
you gotta make this count.
Damn, this guy is pretty good. I wanna do that. Okay, wait, that's not right. Shit. Fuck. Sheik is a pretty interesting character. Comboing with Sheik is clearly pretty hard, but it's really straightforward. Now, I'm not saying it's intuitive, but if you want to learn a few combos, they are very easy to practice on netplay or in training software like Uncle Punch. Also, despite having a very straightforward combo game, there are a lot of different playstyles with Sheik. One of the most obvious playstyles is the tech chasing Sheik. Now, Sheik's tech chase is really good, but it's also on the edge of the human reaction time. Does this matter at all when starting out? Not really, but it's definitely a very finicky skill to improve, and genetics have some impact on it. Now, the impact is very little, and you can become incredibly good without relying on reaction speed, a la Mutaking, but it can be something to at least research and be aware of. But hey, if you decide to learn it, you can do some insane things off grab. Alright, okay, so grab doesn't work, how about F-tilt? Okay, maybe down tilt works, no, okay, maybe we can... Okay, yeah, no, let's not do that either. You get the idea. Against a low percentage player, she can run into some trouble. You have to be ready to accept that you'll be starting all your matches at a slight disadvantage. Nothing that breaks the character or anything, but it can be a bit demoralizing to have the beginning of the match be the hardest part. Wait, what was that? Time to talk about the fastest character in the game, Falcon. Did I mention that he's fast? Spacing correctly against Falcon can prove tricky, and as a Falcon player, you will have no problem running over anyone who doesn't respect your pure speed. This also flows over into his punish game. One of the most bread and butter combos there is to stomp them up into the air and knee them. With any other character it kinda just ends there, but Falcon is a bit special. How special? Well, here are 400 different ways to stomp knee. I feel like there are a few people that showcase a character's dopamine peak as well as Squid the Cat. So if you have any sort of motivation to play Falcon, that might be worth checking out after I'm done. Okay. Where was I? Yeah, I guess Falcon is heavy as well. He lives for a long time. That's nice, I guess. You know what the biggest weakness of the fastest character in the game is? He's slow. What I mean is that his moves take ages to come out. Most aerials in the game take 5, 6 or even 8 frames to start actually damaging the opponent. Falcon's forward air, his main kill move, takes 14 frames before it does anything. His down air takes 16 frames. Although we're not talking about a lot of time, you will still need to have very good control of your character in order to time the moves correctly without looking like a complete fool. Speaking of looking like a fool, look at this beginner being humiliated. Oh wait, that's Wizrobe, arguably the best if not top 2 Falcons in the world. No matter how good you get, you will always be fairly easy to combo. Sure, you can make it a bit harder, but you will still need to work a lot harder than other characters to get the same defensive strength as they get for free. Also, getting straight to the point, he has a really hard time against characters with a low profile. Thankfully, only Marth has a low enough profile to be a problem. And I guess maybe Sheik and Puff then. Oh wait, literally every character in the game can just crouch. Yeah, this is not fair. Can you explain this? I sure can't. What is this? Items in competitive melee? That's right. All of this is possible with one of the weirdest characters in melee. Being the only character with a float mechanic and the only one who's able to spawn items in competitive melee, Peach is definitely the perfect character for someone who wants to play something unique. Another benefit is that she's really fucking hard to kill. She's the heaviest floaty, good recovery, good crouch cancel, etc. There is a reason why Armada lives to 170. But just like another tank, Peach is pretty slow. Now, her moves are pretty fast, but her movement might be one of the slowest among the top tiers. You can still have good movement, but just never expect to run around like a Falcon can. Now, ice climbers are insane on the ground, but terrible in the air. So now we're about to get into the characters that are generally not considered high tiers or high mid tiers, roughly speaking. So one of the benefits with all the characters after this point is that most people will be fairly inexperienced in the matchups, and very few people will actually know what they should do against you and how they should play. With that being said, even if you know how to keep this rat from getting back to stage, it doesn't matter. Pikachu has one of the best recoveries in the game, if not objectively the best. You get to choose 2 angles, it's relatively long and most importantly it's very quick. Just like his recovery, Pikachu is also pretty quick. Sure, his wave dash is kinda lacking, but his ground speed and general quickness with his frame data, his moves, kinda make up for it. Now, although he's pretty quick, it can be pretty difficult to brute force an opening. If the enemy is playing defensive, it can be fairly hard to do anything, since your grab is literally minuscule. If you've ever played a Yoshi before, you might have had the strange things happen during the game. He seems to be kinda invincible in the air, and on the ground as well. What is happening? I remember when I started playing Melee, I asked my local community, how do you edgeguard Yoshi? I mean, he literally has no other recovery options except just double jumping. Well, he has a certain armor, the double jump armor, that activates when he double jumps, which makes him impossible to gimp at low percentage. And he's the only character in the game with a parry mechanic, meaning if he times his shield correctly, the attack is negated. A consequence of having such good defensive options is that Yoshi mainly plays around counter-hitting the opponent. And looking at top level gameplay, you can clearly notice how deadly it can become if you do even a tiny error in your attack. Also, you can do this for some reason, but we're just gonna gloss over that. But this is also his biggest weakness. Playing neutral when you don't really want to attack your opponent can be pretty difficult. A lot of characters have some way to deal with a defensive Yoshi, so you will need to play aggressive as well. Which can be a bit tricky considering most of his moves are pretty slow, minus his nair and up air. If you like mindlessly spamming projectiles and not really having to think to play the game, then Falco is the perfect character. Samus's projectiles act in a similar way, except it's a lot harder to spam them and they are a lot more punishable. But you're able to do this, so I mean. Also, Samus might have the most consistent defensive game out of all the characters. I'm not saying she has the best defense in the game, but if you're more experienced than an opponent, your advantage is going to grow a lot larger than in other matchups. This is simply because of the depth of Samus's defensive play, which can turn you into what feels like a combination between a landmine and just a wall for the opponent. But, as always, there are 2 sides to every coin, and like you might have guessed, a playable wall is not the easiest to attack with. If you want to make an offensive play, you will need to commit hard. Yeah, this one is pretty self-explanatory. Are you getting comboed? Not sure what you should do? Just let everything go and press the big green emergency button. Luigi's nair works as a combo starter, beats a lot of things, and comes out insanely fast. But if the opponent doesn't want to be on the ground with you, it's not as fun. If the opponent is smart enough to camp you, you'll need to outplay them really hard in order to start some sort of fair fight. And usually, when you're recovering, the enemy has to sort of guess what you're about to do. But with Luigi, so do you. And if luck isn't on your side, his recovery is really lacking. Dr. Mario is really average. He has some projectiles, his toolkit is pretty usual. He has a couple of cool tricks like up B cancelling and cape stuff, I guess. But being average is his strength. If you want to learn the game, that is. If you just want to win, then maybe just go Puff or Fox. But there are of course some areas where he's a bit more lacking than the average characters. What moves can Dr. Mario hit Fox with right here? The answer? None. His forward smash is basically as big as his grab, so you really need to get really up close to finish people off. Also, his recovery is pretty meh. Now, this is where the generally accepted line of viability goes, but don't let that stop you from maining any of the following characters. If you hit them, it's easy. If. Pretty average. Mango recommends him for learning melee, so that's something, I guess. Probably the best grab follow-up in the game. Projectiles the character. Good against people camping you. Like young Link, but you can do this. Pretty good aerials, good grab, good recovery. Wait, why is this character low tier now again? Oh right, he doesn't have a shield. Cool, unique character, but tail bad. Like Marth, but worse. Like Pikachu, but worse. Just worse. 2 moves. Nothing works. Slow. Okay, before I end the video off, I have some interesting things to talk about. First of all, I didn't mention character hate at all, which, I mean, a lot of people mentioned when I asked them about the benefits and negatives of each character, but I just feel like that's such a personal problem that I didn't really want to include it. Another interesting part is that the response I got from the communities varied a lot. Some of the most engaged character discords or communities were the Yoshi Discord, which I did not expect, and the Peach Discord. They had a lot of things to say about their characters, which feels kind of random to me, but that's interesting. Another interesting fact is that the Ice Climber community didn't give me a single thing to talk about. And you might think like, oh, I'm a bit unclear with my question. But I mean, I sent the same thing to every other community, so I don't know what's up with that. There are some characters missing, like all the low tiers and, you know, a lot of the mid tiers. And Fox and Puff, because I felt like I had enough information to talk about those on my own. And finally, one really interesting fact is that almost all communities said one of the negatives of their characters is that they are very hard to play, which I found really interesting. Almost everyone says it. There's not a single community that says one of the benefits of the characters are that they are easy to play. But yeah, that's it. Bye bye.